Good morning and welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. We are going to do a project that I completely forgot we had to do until yesterday when I was actually cleaning the garage fridge out. So let's go and grab our stuff to do our project today. I have to get this turkey out for Thanksgiving. I'm trying to get it defrosted so that I can get it brining. I need to brine it for at least 24 hours. And today is Monday, so we're kind of pushing it and it's still kind of frozen. I'm gonna leave it sit out for a little bit so that it can hopefully defrost. Buried in my fridge, I found a whole bunch of apples. Was gonna make an applesauce with these a long time ago and honestly got busy. We went out of town and it's just been kind of chaotic since then. So today we're gonna do 2 apple projects. Whoopsie, lost an apple. These apples are not the best for eating. They're really soft. These are actually still the apples that we got from the Amish a while ago. Really need to get used. Also, one of Stephen's coworkers, her husband, I don't know what he does, but he ends up bringing home excess produce. And she brought us a bag of plums. They've been sitting in here for a while, so I need to get maybe some plum jam made with this. We had a runaway apple. I don't really want to make plum jam because I honestly have a lot of plum jam already in my pantry. So I need to find another project to do with those plums. If you guys have any ideas, please leave them in the comments because I don't know what to make with them. I have a whole bunch of plum jam already in my pantry that I made last year because I love to use that plum jam to make a sweet and sour plum sauce with it. I need another idea to do with plums. I don't know if there's a lot of things to do with them. I guess I could dehydrate them and make like prunes. That might be good. Is it prunes? Do plums dehydrate into prunes? I think they do. I know grapes dehydrate into raisins, but not sure about plums. Okay, I'm grabbing some more apples out of here that are not in the best condition. I had to resort to going and buying a bag of apples at the grocery store for my fresh eating apples. The ones we got from the Amish are not the best for fresh eating. Kind of in need of preserving. I also want to tell you guys about the recipes we made last week. So that chai tea, I drank it so fast, and that will definitely be a staple in my fridge from now on because it was so delicious. So this is the pickled ginger after a week. It is amazing. It is so good, and that ginger was spicy. So this stuff, you don't need a lot of it in order to get that nice pickled ginger hit. That's what it looks like. And then that ginger simple syrup, also amazing. I have been drinking that with some plain sparkling water and it is so good. One thing about it though is I probably, if I make that again, which I will when I'm making more pickled ginger, I will add a lot more water to that because that simple syrup turned out so strong. It is very gingery. You literally just need maybe like 2 teaspoons to a whole 8-ounce glass of sparkling water. It is very potent. It's delicious, but it's very potent. Got my handy dandy apple peeler out, and we are going to start the process of peeling these apples. I need to get the plastic off of it first. There we go. Did I tell you guys what we were making it? I think maybe I did. I said we were making 2 different things. So we're going to use this cookbook for one of the recipes. And then I have a recipe that I actually pulled out of the Azure standard sales flyer, and it is a Pomona's pectin recipe. I believe this one is actually on the Pomona's website. If I can find it, I will leave it linked for you guys. So the very first project that we're going to do with these apples is we're going to make an applesauce. So we're going to start by just making a plain basic applesauce, which the recipe is here in this cookbook. Now, once we get that applesauce made, we're gonna do 2 different spin-offs with it. So we're gonna keep half of the applesauce as just an applesauce, but we are going to turn it into a browned butter saged applesauce. I already have a whole bunch of unsweetened applesauce on my pantry shelf. That works perfect for just when I wanna have, you know, a plain applesauce. But this brown butter sage stuff sounds amazing, so I want to give that a try since I already have my applesauce that I need for the year. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. It's like caught in my nose. So with the second half of that applesauce, we are going to make this Pomona's apple pie jam. Doesn't it sound amazing? So in order to make this jam, you need applesauce. So we're gonna take half of the applesauce that we make and then make the jam with it. So we need to get started with peeling the apples because the applesauce recipe actually calls for you to peel them. I mean, if you don't want to peel them, you could probably get away with it, but I'm going to stick to what the recipe says to do, which is peeling it. And honestly, I prefer to take the peelings off of them. Am I feeling ambitious enough to make apple simple syrup today? I don't know if I'm feeling ambitious enough to make that apple simple syrup because I'm honestly doing a whole bunch of Thanksgiving meal prep. Let me just get these washed. We are actually going away for Thanksgiving. We're going to Steven's family in Arkansas. So I have to pretty much pre-prep everything before we go. So I'm kind of in Thanksgiving prep mode. I have some sourdough bread in the oven right now. I'll put the peelings in here. But these apples definitely needed to get processed and I've been putting it off and then completely forgot that the apples were even in there. So that's why I'm choosing to do this project today and get it done with so that I don't have to come home to a huge canning project. Not that this is going to be a huge project, but I just don't want to come home to projects. Just getting some cold water, and I'm going to put some lemon juice in this cold water. So after we get the apples chopped, we can just put them in this and it will help prevent them from going brown. I'm going to get these chopped. I'm gonna go through and cut off some of the bad parts. I just wanna get them chopped first. I decided to get my chopper out and chop the apples into small diced size pieces. You can definitely skip this step. The recipe just says to peel, core, and quarter the apples, but I want them to hopefully cook a little bit quicker. We have them sitting in the lemon water so that they don't brown. So we're gonna pivot a little bit, which is in my true fashion. So the recipe to make the brown buttered applesauce, you actually have to boil the apples down in the butter. So we can't make the apple pie jam with that particular applesauce. So to make the apple pie jam, I'm gonna actually use some of my applesauce from my pantry because I think I'm gonna actually enjoy eating this applesauce more than I will the stuff on the pantry shelf. I also would love to be able to show you guys making the recipe using a canned applesauce. If you don't have your own apples to make the applesauce, I want to show you how easy it is to make with the stuff you can just get at the grocery store. So we're going to get started by taking 2 sticks of butter or 1 cup of butter, and we are going to get that melted in a saucepan. We're going to cook it on a low heat until it is melted. And then once it's melted, we're gonna keep a close eye on it because we wanna brown this butter. And this is just butter that I just took out of my fridge. So it is not at room temperature, it is rock hard butter. So it'll take a little bit longer to melt. And we're gonna do a low heat. I realized we should be weighing these apples because this recipe calls for 8 pounds of apples and I don't think we have 8 pounds. And we're melting enough butter for 8 pounds. So I'm just gonna take the butter off really quickly and get these apples weighed. So right now we're at 2 pounds. Strainer for the rest of these apples. 5 pounds, 10.5 ounces. I need to take some of this butter out. Thank goodness it's not all the way melted. Well, I'm gonna take this much out. Let's get that melting again. Low heat. Have to get my second loaf of sourdough in the oven. I'm trying to get this done. Take this off for 2 seconds. Put it in for 6 minutes. After 6 minutes, I take it out and then I score it and then I put it back in for another 20 minutes. And then I turn the temperature down, take the lid off, and then put it back in for another 15 minutes. And that's done. So at least I got that project off my plate. Butter is melted. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna brown it. So in order to brown it, I just kind of swoosh it around like this. What's gonna happen next is you're gonna get some foam built up on top of that butter. And I just kind of keep moving it around because I don't want to burn the butter. I just want to brown it. And you'll see it turn a nice, beautiful brown. You'll also smell when the butter gets brown. It smells really sweet, almost nutty. It smells amazing. I think maybe I took too much butter out. That's okay. And I have this on a really low heat so that I don't burn it. because it happens really quickly. The second you look away, you then have burnt butter. I need to get that bread out of the oven to score it. Keep kind of stirring it. Starting to get the foam on the top, so that means that it's going to change very, very quickly. You can smell it already changing. It's hard to show you, but the butter is brown in there. The foam is just in the way right now. Once the foam calms down, you'll be able to see that the butter is a nice golden brown color. I'm going to pull it off because that's good. Put the head outside because we need to get some fresh sage. Oh, I forgot I need to put these things inside. Had these coolers sitting outside since we processed the turkeys, and I need to get them put away. Get in here. We need to cut about half a cup of sage. Should be good. Herb garden is kind of coming back to life with the cooler weather. I have some parsley right there. This is some curly leaf parsley, and that's regular parsley. And then this is some type of sage. I think it's like golden sage. And this stuff all right here, mint and oregano. And I have another sage plant over there. So we need half a cup of sage. Just gonna rinse it off. Whatever I don't use, I'll just hang up and dry. You can use dried sage for this also if you don't have access to a fresh sage plant. It grows throughout the whole season here. I don't really have to preserve any because I can pick it fresh even in like freezing cold weather. It will still be growing. Oh, it smells delicious. Okay, so we're gonna cut this into smaller pieces. And we need half a cup. I'm just gonna bunch it like this and just cut like this. If you're using dried sage, I would not use half a cup because dried sage is more concentrated than the fresh stuff. So I would probably do maybe 1/3, maybe even 1/4 cup. You can always taste it after maybe just adding 1/4 cup and see if it's, you know, enough. If you want a little bit more, then you can add a little bit more, but once you get it in there, you can't take it out. So start small. Okay, let's get making this applesauce. So I have my 6 pounds, well, 5 pounds, 10 ounces, so almost 6 pounds of apples in here. I've not added anything to this pot. This is just the apples. So we're gonna add all of our ingredients to this. Now I am going to be using a white organic evaporated cane juice in this, so just sugar. If you want, you could use honey in this. You can make that modification. I just want to use sugar for it. So we're going to add some water. Now the recipe says if you had the 8 pounds of apples, you're going to add in 2 cups of water. Because we have less, I'm going to add in about 1 1/4 cup of just water. And then we're going to add in 1 cup or just a little bit under 1 cup of sugar. Turn it on to a medium heat because we're going to bring this to a boil. I just want to get the sugar stirred in first, and then we're going to add our butter and sage. Okay, and now you can kind of see the butter a little bit better now that it's cooled down a little bit. It's this golden color. So we're going to add that into the pot also. And then we're going to add our sage. We'll get that stirred in. And we're going to bring this to a boil. Let's go and get our applesauce from the pantry while we're waiting for that to come to a boil. Yeah, 2023. Need to get this used. So it calls for 4 cups. There should be about 2 cups. So we're going to grab 2 of these to make our jam. So I have decided that I am going to save these and make some apple scrap syrup with this, but I cannot get to it this week because of Thanksgiving. So I'm going to put them in the freezer and freeze them so that when I have some extra time in the winter, I can make some syrup with it. On last week's video, I actually showed you guys how to make the simple syrup. I just used some ginger scraps. Do the exact same process, but use apples. As I explained in that video, you can use anything really to do it. It's an excellent way to reduce food waste, which I feel like a broken record because I say that on every single video. This is enough to make a really big batch of it too, which is awesome. And I save everything, seeds and all. Okay, so that'll go in the freezer. This is now boiling. So we are going to turn it down to a simmer, so like a low heat. And then we're gonna simmer this for about 35 minutes. You want these apples to cook down a lot and get super soft. If you don't want to do the brown butter sage, you can actually just do a regular applesauce with this recipe. What you would do is you would just do everything the exact same I did, except obviously you're not going to put the butter in and you're not going to put the sage in. It does give you an option to put a cinnamon stick in. It says about a 10-inch cinnamon stick. So if you want to do it just normal, just omit the butter and the sage. Just do all of the steps that I did. We're gonna let this cook down for 35 minutes. Check it after 35 minutes. I'm gonna be coming in and stirring it often though, because I don't want it to stick to the bottom. There is quite a bit of moisture already in there, so I don't think it'll necessarily burn, but we're just gonna stir it often to be on the safe side. I have some pint-sized jars in my water bath canner. I'm getting those nice and warm. I don't want to make the jam while I'm doing this activity. Number one, because I don't have really big burner space to do it. Jam requires you to be very hands-on for a very short amount of time. And I do not want to be distracted with, number one, my bread that I have in the oven, which I already realized that the timer accidentally got shut off. So I'm just winging it with smell. And then also with that on there, it's just too many moving parts. I can do a lot of multitasking, but with jam, I don't really play games with it because you can overcook it really, really quickly. So once we get this applesauce into the canner, then we'll start making our jam. What do we need to do after it is done cooking for the 35 minutes? So it says to press the apples through a food mill or a sieve. That will just make them super soft. So we'll get our food mill out. It says return the pulp to the pot, stir enough sugar. We added the sugar at the wrong time. You're supposed to add it after you strain the apples. That's okay. We're gonna roll with it. After I just finished explaining to you that I could multitask. This actually has nothing to do with my inability to multitask. This is my ability to read the directions carefully before I start the project. So if you want to do it the correct way, once the 35 minutes is up, you are going to run it through a food mill and return the pulp back to the pot. Then you are going to add your appropriate amount of sugar. And by appropriate, I mean what you want to have in it. It says you can use anywhere from 3/4 to 1 1/4 cup of sugar. So we added the 1 cup. It also goes in to say that you can also add another 1 cup of water if you find it's too pulpy and you need to make it a little bit more runny. Then you want to bring that to a boil and stir consistently, and then you'll have applesauce. So we're just going to mill it, put it back to the pot and bring it back to a boil, and then we'll have our applesauce. And if we feel we need to add any more sweetener at that point, we can, but I don't think we will. I'm hoping that it doesn't wreck the applesauce. Let's give it a stir. I don't think it will. I don't think it will. It might make a little bit of a syrup because we're heating the sugar up with the liquid. It does smell amazing though. One thing that I also want to add, you've seen the amount of applesauce that I have in my pantry. I need to get that used up. So that's why I'm making like a fun version of applesauce, because that's going to be my OG original applesauce. This is going to kind of be like a little bit of a treat. I don't really eat a lot of pork, but I'm thinking if you make a pork roast, this applesauce would taste heavenly on top of it. We are going to give these a little check. I think they're looking pretty tender. We'll get that turned off. Put this in the food mill. We might need to let this go a little bit longer because I don't know if it's tender enough. I think I want to put this back on the stove for a little bit longer. Also, the other thing, by us putting this sage in ahead of time, it's kind of making this look a little bit green. We're going to do something a little bit different that the recipe does not say to do. We're going to use our immersion blender. We're going to blend this up. So I'm going to put all of this pulp back in here. We'll put all this liquid back. We've already messed the recipe up by adding the sugar in at an inappropriate time. So we're just going to just go completely off the rails, and we're gonna now immersion blend this. I have the heat turned off also. I think that's good. It's still chunky, but I do kind of like a little bit of a chunky applesauce. It doesn't need to be like a liquid. So I'm actually going to turn the heat back on, and I'm going to bring this back to a simmer. I want to simmer this until some of the liquid comes off of it. It is still a little bit runny. So I'm going to simmer this for about maybe 15 more minutes. We need to do a taste test because we need to make sure that the sweetener is good. About this much. That is so interesting. It's an applesauce, but it almost has a cream taste to it, and you really can't taste the sage. I mean, it's in there, but it is so muted and quiet in the background that it just gives it a hint of it, which is amazing. But that butter comes through in a cream taste. This, I would say, a luxury applesauce. This is so top level. I said it last week with my almond butter recipe, but I've never tasted anything like this. This is amazing. So we're gonna let this cook down for, again, about 15 more minutes, get some of that liquid off, and then we will get this canned. Top-notch recipe. This is so good. I would definitely eat this over my regular applesauce because this is delicious. This is almost like, it's savory, but it's dessert-like. I don't know, it's good. It's hard to describe. You're gonna have to make it yourself if you want to know what I'm trying to explain. Oh, and the other thing too, the recipe said to use like a tart apple. I am using Gala, so that is a super sweet apple, which may be altering my results as well. So that is not a tart applesauce. It's spitting up everywhere. So I'm trying to stir it and make sure that it's not making a big mess. And I'm leaving the lid off so some of that steam comes off. I'm gonna take this off the heat now. It's not quite been 15 minutes, but I don't want it to burn or cook down anymore. So it's off the heat. Got hot jars, and we are gonna ladle this hot applesauce into here, and we are going to leave 1/2 inch headspace. Look at the color on this applesauce versus this applesauce. Different apples, plus the sage in there makes it a little bit more of a different color. I just love this applesauce. We don't have enough to can this one, so we'll just put it in the fridge. We're gonna debubble these and make sure we have the appropriate amount of headspace, which again is 1/2 inch. All right, and then we have a clean rag, and we're just gonna clean the top of the jars because we did get a little bit of applesauce on them. Then we're gonna get our lids on. And our rings to fingertip tight. Put these in the water bath canner. Because we are doing pints, we need to water bath can this for 15 minutes. Once it comes to the rolling boil, we'll start the timer for the 15 minutes, and then we will take them out. I don't know if I mentioned it at the beginning, but we're using this canning book for the recipe, and I will have that linked for you guys down below in the video description. So I'm gonna do the dishes and get that pot cleaned, and then I'm going to get my countertop canner out. Because I'm going to be doing these in 1/2 pint jars, I can water bath in my countertop canner. That's the other thing I forgot to mention. You can do quart-sized jars for this applesauce. If you are doing quarts, you're gonna do 20 minutes, but again, because we're doing pints, we're only gonna do the 15 minutes. I'll be back once I get that pot cleaned and we'll get started on that jam. It's gonna come together super, super quick, so I need to get my countertop canner all ready. I cannot stop snacking on that applesauce. It is delicious. So we have our timer set now. Those are going for their 15 minutes. I have my other ones getting warm in my countertop canner. So we're gonna get started with this recipe. So if you are going to be making your applesauce yourself, you can just follow the directions we just did, which I wouldn't recommend because we totally butchered that recipe and did it our own way. But we did it safely because that is still safe to can. So just putting that out there. But if you're not comfortable with it, you can always freeze that, or you could just do your own research, or you could follow the book. Anyways, for this recipe, it says to prepare your apples, you want to peel, core, and chop your apples, put them in a sauce pot with water, Bring that to a simmer, simmer covered, stirring, mashing occasionally until you have a chunky or smooth applesauce. Remove that from the heat and measure out 4 cups of applesauce. So insert applesauce. We're going to use canned applesauce, which again is perfectly safe to do in this recipe. So I have my calcium water already prepared. We are going to be using Pomona's pectin today. I already had some calcium water in my fridge, so that's already prepared. If you are new to using Pomona's pectin, I will leave the recipe linked below, which is on their website, and their website does explain about the calcium water. I already had some made, so I'm not going to make it right now. Get some calcium water with the pouch, so I'm just going to set that aside because I don't need it with this. So we'll get our pectin out. I'm going to use honey in this recipe, but you can use sugar or you can use no sweetener if you like. So the first step we need to do is get our applesauce and empty it into our clean saucepan. And I just say clean because this is the one we just used. So I just washed it. Get a spatula out. Where's my spatula? I also just washed my spatula. And so we need 4 cups of applesauce. So in each pint, I have 2 cups. When I made this applesauce, I let it cook down for a really, really long time. That's why it is not a chunky applesauce. But I'm glad I made that other one chunky though, because it's so good. So for the spices, we are going to add some cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. The recipe does say at the bottom to feel free to mix whatever spice mix you want to mix in this. You can just use like an apple pie spice mix, but it says just make sure when putting in your spices that you do not exceed 1 teaspoon. So do not go over the 1 teaspoon of spices. Like with everything combined, it should equal 1 teaspoon. Also, I think I forgot to turn the camera on for this point, but I added a 1/4 cup of lemon juice to this pot, and I also added 2 teaspoons of our calcium water to here. I forgot to press the record button. I looked up and realized it wasn't recording. So those are in here. So let's get our spices added. So we're going to add some cinnamon, and we're going to put in 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm just using a ground cinnamon. All of these spices are going to be ground. Nutmeg, we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon. Allspice, we're also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon. And it says to mix well. Just want to get all those spices incorporated. We are going to set this aside. The stove is not on yet. Okay, so we're going to use honey in this, and we are going to use maybe 3/4 cup of honey. Maybe we'll use 1/3 cup. You can use up to 1 cup of honey in this, or if you want to use sugar, you can use 3/4 to 2 cups of sugar. But I don't want the sugar to overpower, so we're going to use this much. And now we have our pectin. Make sure the camera's recording. So we need 2 teaspoons of our pectin. Still have 1/2 pack left, so I'm just going to put it in the box because we have a whole bunch of calcium water still in the fridge. We're going to stir it so that the pectin is all mixed in with the honey. Beautiful caramel color. It looks like caramel sauce. Our timer went off for our applesauce, so I just wanted to get those off before I started this because this process, again, goes very quickly. So we have our applesauce mixture on here. That's our applesauce with our lemon juice, calcium water, and spices. And we are going to bring this to a boil. And then once it comes to a boil, we're going to add this in, which is our sugar and our pectin, or in our case, our honey and our pectin. We got this to a boil. I've just been stirring it down. We're going to add our honey and pectin now because this is at a boil. And then we're going to stir that in, and then we're going to bring this back up to a boil. Palms down as soon as you add the sugar or the honey. So this is to a boil, and it's to a boil that I can't stir it down, meaning like when I stir it, it doesn't really calm down. It's still at like a pretty aggressive boil. We're going to start a timer for 2 minutes, and I am just going to kind of keep stirring this as it's boiling because I don't want it to burn on the bottom. And then we need to get our jars out because then we need to can this. It is looking really runny right now. Normally my jams are not this runny. Normally it sets up pretty quickly. We're Hopefully it sets up. If it doesn't set up, we can still use it for something else. There's lots of stuff that you can do with unset jam. Makes really good syrup if you boil it down a little bit. You can put that on pancakes. You can also put it into bread, like if you wanted to make an apple pie bread. This would probably taste delicious in that. So if it doesn't set, that's okay. There's stuff we can do with it. Steven just got home and I made him taste that applesauce and he says, that's pretty good. Like at first he's like, what's this green stuff? And I knew as soon as he said that, I'm like, he's not gonna eat it because it's got sage in it. But he did. He took a big spoonful and he said that it was good. If I can get the seal of approval from him, we know we got a pretty good applesauce because he's pretty picky with his applesauce. Okay, let's take this off the heat. Timer went off. We have our hot jars and we are going to ladle this jam, which hopefully it sets up. It's not looking like it will. We're going to ladle it into our jars and leave a 1/4 inch head space. My confidence level is not too high on this setting up. So this one isn't going to quite be a full jar. So like the applesauce, we'll just put this in the fridge and eat this one first. Set that aside. Let's get these debubbled. Get the tops cleaned off with a clean rag. Okay, get our lids on. Get our rings on to fingertip tight. Get these put in here. I gotta add more water to that. You can have water covering it by 1 inch. And press start. And we are going to water bath can this for 10 minutes. As you can see, that made a very, very, very small batch of jam. I've never made it before and I did not want to have a whole bunch of jars sitting on my pantry shelf that I just didn't like. So we did a small batch of it. We'll see how we like it. If this is a good recipe, we just used our canned applesauce to make this. So we can recreate it during the winter months. We don't need to have fresh apples to do it. Fresh apples would definitely taste a lot fresher, but you got to use what you got. I would rather do an experiment with this recipe with stuff that's been sitting on my pantry shelf for a couple of years that I have to get used. Now I really have to get into my Thanksgiving prep and get that turkey brining. We took our jars out. I didn't film it, but there they are. I heard them all pop. I'm so excited about these. Such a good recipe. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Cannot recommend that recipe enough. It is amazing. And I do not think that those jars are going to last very long because I will eat through them very quickly. It is delicious. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great day or night whenever you're watching this and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.